There is a headline that recently flashed across the wires that should have stopped every investor in their tracks, but most people missed it. Microsoft, the largest company in the world, is paying to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant. Yes, that 3 Mile Island, the site of the worst nuclear accident in American history, the place that has been a symbol of fear and radioactive danger for 50 years. Microsoft is not doing this because they love nuclear physics. They are not doing this as a publicity stunt. They are doing this because they are terrified. They have done the math on artificial intelligence, and they have realized something that the stock market is ignoring. There is not enough electricity on the grid to run the future they have sold us. We are betting the entire global economy on AI. We are driving stock prices to the moon based on the promise of a digital superintelligence. But we have forgotten a basic law of physics. Intelligence takes energy. We are trying to build a digital god on a power grid built in the 1,950 seconds, and the physics are about to crash the financial markets. Before we open the case file on the energy vampire, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you want to support more forensic financial analysis like this. The narrative right now is that AI is a software revolution. We think of it as code. We think of it as something that happens in the cloud. But the cloud is not a fluffy white thing in the sky. The cloud is millions of tons of steel, copper, and silicon sitting in massive warehouses called data centers. And those data centers are the hungriest machines humans have ever built. To understand the scale of this hunger, we have to look at the numbers. A standard Google search uses about 0.3 watt-hours of electricity. It is a tiny blip. But a ChatGPT query uses about 3 watt-hours. That is 10 times more energy. Now multiply that by billions of queries a day. Multiply that by the training runs for new models, which consume as much electricity as a small city. The International Energy Agency estimates that data center electricity consumption will double in just 3 years. In Ireland, data centers already consume nearly 20% of all the electricity in the country. In the United States, data center power demand is projected to grow by 160% by 2030. This is not a slow creep. This is an explosion. And here's the problem. The US power grid is not growing. In fact, in many places, it is shrinking. We have spent the last decade shutting down coal plants and older nuclear plants because we thought we had a surplus of power. We thought we could replace them with wind and solar at our own pace. But we were wrong. We are hitting a thermodynamic wall. To understand what happens when an economy hits an energy limit, we have to look at history. We have to open the case file on the year 1973. Before 1973, the Western world was in a golden age of growth. The stock market was booming, the middle class was expanding. You could buy a house on a single income. This growth was built on one assumption: cheap oil. Oil was the master commodity. It fueled the cars, the factories, and the power plants. And because the West controlled the oil fields of the Middle East, the price was kept artificially low. Economists built models that assumed energy was infinite and cheap. They treated energy as just another input, like labor or raw materials. They thought if they needed more, they could just buy more. Then came the Yom Kippur War. In October 1973, the Arab oil-producing nations, led by Saudi Arabia, turned off the tap. They imposed an oil embargo on the United States and its allies. Overnight, the cheap energy vanished. The price of oil quadrupled. The effect was catastrophic. It was not just that gas was expensive. It was that the physics of the economy broke. Factories had to shut down because they could not afford to run the machines. Trucking companies went bankrupt. The stock market crashed, losing nearly half its value in 2 years. We entered a period called stagflation, stagnant growth and high inflation. The lesson of 1973 is that you cannot print energy. The Federal Reserve could print dollars. They could manipulate interest rates, but they could not print barrels of oil. When the physical constraint hit, the financial tricks stopped working. Now, fast forward to 2025. We are walking into the same trap. But this time, the constraint is not oil from the ground. It is electrons on the wire. The AI revolution is the new economic engine. Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are the new Standard Oil. They are the monopolies of our time. But they have a problem. They are facing the Jevons Paradox. William Stanley Jevons was a 19th century economist who studied coal usage in England. He noticed something strange. When James Watt invented a more efficient steam engine, everyone thought coal consumption would go down because the engine used less coal to do the same amount of work. But Jevons observed the opposite. Coal consumption skyrocketed. Why? Because the more efficient the engine became, the more profitable it was to use it. So people found new ways to use steam engines everywhere. They put them in ships, they put them in factories, they put them in trains. Efficiency does not lead to conservation. Efficiency leads to expansion. This is exactly what is happening with AI. As the chips get faster and more efficient, we do not use less power. We use more. We build bigger models. We integrate AI into every phone, every car, and every toaster. The demand for electricity is going vertical. But the supply of electricity is horizontal. It is flat. It takes 10 years to permit and build a new high voltage transmission line in the United States. It takes 5 years to build a gas power plant. It takes 15 years to build a nuclear plant. But it only takes 6 months to build a data center full of AI chips. Do you see the mismatch? We are adding demand 20 times faster than we are adding supply. And we are seeing the warning signs already. Look at Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is known as Data Center Alley. It handles a massive percentage of the world's internet traffic. Recently, the power utility there had to tell the tech companies that they literally could not hook up any new data centers for several years. The wires were melting. They simply could not push any more electrons through the grid. So what did the tech companies do? Did they stop building? No. They started buying diesel generators. Think about the absurdity of that. We are building the most advanced intelligence in the universe, and we are powering it by burning diesel fuel in a parking lot because the grid is broken. This brings us back to Microsoft and 3 Mile Island. Why is the richest company in the world buying electricity from a nuclear plant that has been closed for 5 years? Because they need baseload power. This is a critical concept that the green energy optimists often ignore. Wind and solar are intermittent. The sun does not shine at night. The wind does not blow all the time. But a data center cannot sleep. It needs 99.999% uptime. It needs a constant, steady flow of massive amperage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If the power flickers for a millisecond, the servers crash, and millions of dollars of compute time is lost. You cannot run the AI revolution on weather-dependent power. You cannot train a trillion parameter model and hope that it is a sunny day in Arizona. You need thermal generation. You need natural gas. You need coal, or you need nuclear. But we have spent the last 20 years shutting down our thermal plants to meet climate goals. We have retired the reliable generation and replaced it with intermittent generation. The grid is dangerously thin. The PJM interconnection, which is the grid operator for a huge chunk of the eastern US, has warned that they face a supply shortfall as soon as 2026, that is next year. And there is another canary in the coal mine that proves this is real. Bitcoin miners. For the last decade, Bitcoin miners have been the scavengers of the energy grid. They would go to places with cheap excess power and set up shop. But recently, we have seen a massive shift. The AI companies are coming in and buying the Bitcoin mining facilities. Why? They do not want the Bitcoin mining rigs. They want the grid connection. They are paying huge premiums just to get the contract for the electricity. Core Scientific, a massive Bitcoin miner, just signed a deal worth billions with CoreWeave to host AI chips instead of crypto miners. When the smartest money in the world is buying up crypto mines just to get access to a power socket, you know the shortage is real. So what happens when the unstoppable force of AI demand hits the immovable object of grid physics? Prices explode. Just like oil in 1973, the price of electricity is going to become the primary driver of inflation. And who gets the power? This is the start of the energy wars. The big tech companies are already bypassing the public utility grid. They are going what is called behind the meter. They are building data centers directly next to nuclear power plants and buying 100% of the electricity before it ever hits the public wires. This is what Microsoft did. They effectively bought a private power plant. Amazon did the same thing in Pennsylvania, buying a data center right next to the Susquehanna nuclear plant. This leaves the rest of us fighting for the scraps on the public grid. As supply tightens, your electric bill goes up. Manufacturing costs go up. The cost of doing business goes up. This is the hidden tax of the AI boom. But the shortage is not just about the power generation. It is about the hardware that moves the power. We have to talk about transformers. Not the movie. The massive metal boxes that sit at substations and step down the voltage so it can be used. These transformers are the size of a school bus. They are custom built. And right now, there is a global shortage of them. If you order a large power transformer today, the lead time is between 2 and 4 years. The manufacturers cannot keep up. We have neglected the physical supply chain for decades while we focused on software. Now we are realizing that software cannot run without hardware. And it is not just transformers, it is copper. To upgrade the grid to handle this load, we need millions of tons of copper wiring. But we've not opened any new major copper mines in years. The physical constraints are everywhere. So how do we pivot? How do we invest in a world where energy is the bottleneck? Most investors are chasing the users of energy. They are buying Nvidia. They are buying Microsoft. They are buying the car. But the smart money is buying the gas. If AI is the gold rush, the semiconductor chips are the shovels. But electricity is the water you need to drink while you are digging. And right now, we are running out of water. We need to look at the energy producers and the grid infrastructure companies. Let us start with uranium. Nuclear energy is the only source of carbon-free baseload power that can scale. The stigma is gone. The restart of 3 Mile Island proves that the desperation for power outweighs the fear of radiation. The world is entering a nuclear renaissance, not because we want to, but because we have to. China is building 20 nuclear plants right now. The US is extending the life of every plant it has. We are seeing a complete U-turn in regulatory attitude. The demand for physical uranium is set to outstrip supply for the next decade. This is a classic supply squeeze. There are only a handful of reliable uranium producers in the world. Cameco in Canada, Kazatomprom in Kazakhstan, and a few smaller players in the US and Australia. This is a tiny market. If a small fraction of the capital flowing into AI stocks rotates into uranium stocks, the price move will be violent. Then look at natural gas. Despite all the talk about net zero, the reality is that the only way to keep the lights on for the next 10 years while we build nuclear plants is to burn gas. Natural gas is the bridge fuel. It is the backup for the renewables. The AI data centers are begging for gas turbines. They are installing them on site. The pipeline companies that move this gas are the toll roads of the future economy. Companies like Kinder Morgan or Williams Companies or Energy Transfer. They own the steel in the ground. You cannot build a new pipeline easily in America due to regulations. That makes the existing pipelines incredibly valuable. They have a monopoly on the flow of energy. And finally, look at the grid infrastructure, the copper wires, the transformers, the switchgear. The US grid is old. The average transformer is 40 years old. They are nearing the end of their life, just as we are overloading them with unprecedented demand. Companies that make the boring hardware of the grid, Eaton, Hubble, Hammond Power, these are the unsung heroes of this trade. They are not flashy. They do not have AI chatbots. They do not trade at 50 times earnings, but they have order books that are full for the next 5 years. They have pricing power. Without them, the AI chatbots die. We also have to look at the political implications. In 1973, the energy crisis caused geopolitical chaos. It shifted the balance of power to the Middle East. The AI energy crisis will shift the balance of power to energy-rich jurisdictions. This is the concept of sovereign AI. Every nation realizes that having their own AI model is a matter of national security. You cannot rely on an American model or a Chinese model. You need your own. To train your own model, you need massive amounts of power. So we are going to see countries hoarding energy. We might see bans on energy exports. We might see states competing to attract data centers with cheap power deals. States and countries with cheap, abundant power will win the future. Iceland, Canada, or US states like Texas that have their own grid and massive gas reserves. We are seeing a reversal of the digital nomad trend. Instead of people moving to where the weather is, nice industries will move to where the electricity is cheap. This is the new geography of wealth. The forensic conclusion is simple. The stock market is pricing in a utopia where AI generates trillions of dollars of value out of thin air. But the laws of thermodynamics say that value cannot be created out of nothing. It requires work, and work requires energy. We are short energy. The tech companies know this. That is why Zuckerberg and Altman and Gates are obsessed with nuclear fusion and small modular reactors. They know their business model hits a wall without a breakthrough in physics. But physics does not obey quarterly earnings calls. Building a new energy infrastructure takes decades. Building an AI model takes months. The collision is coming. The 1973 oil shock taught us that when energy becomes scarce, everything changes. The winners of the previous decade become the losers of the next. In the 1,960 seconds, the Nifty 50 stocks were the darlings. In the 1,970 seconds, they crashed and energy stocks soared. We are at the same turning point. The tech trade is crowded. Everyone owns the AI stocks. The energy trade is empty. Everyone thinks fossil fuels and nuclear are dead money, but the ledger does not lie. The demand is exponential. The supply is linear. That gap is where the profit is. Do not bet on the computer. Bet on the plug. The constraints are real. The physical world is about to reassert itself over the digital world. Those who understand the physics will prosper. Those who ignore it will be left in the dark.